Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. And let's get started. It's top of the hour. My name is Minish, and just for everybody, we are going to be recording this session, and this recording will be shared with all of us. And I assume everybody would be okay if we can continue recording, please. So with that, welcome to the AEC 360 webinar. I might be getting distracted because I'm the admin and I'm admitting a lot of people. So let me get this out of the way. First, in the session today, we've got Andy Yeomans. He's the Executive Vice President and has been part of the AEC solution and brainchild for last 15 years and has spent significant part of his life in the whole architecture, engineering, construction firm, so heavily and highly regarded in the industry. We also have Ivy Lam. Ivy is a Microsoft representative focused in the real estate and construction industry, and focuses Microsoft Dynamics business applications in those industries. So, through some of the innovation Microsoft is doing and how Microsoft is helping the real estate and construction industries. So why are we here today? Well, today, from what we've seen around the world and in Australia and New Zealand, the AEC firms are facing much more pressure on a number of areas. Being able to attract not only the best team to deliver things, but also getting a lot of pressure from clients and client margins, doing things faster, better, and be more productive. So hence the whole connected experience is even more important than ever. And we'll get to what we mean by the connected and introduce you that theme of connected, whether you're doing the business development from winning more businesses, or whether it's being more agile and delivering things better and faster from a margin improvement. And obviously showcasing some of the things we're doing around the world and why industry leading firms are moving in the direction. So brief agenda today, it should take us on 60 minutes, and we should be able to cover, a context of what changes are happening around the world we are seeing in the AEC industry and the challenges the firms are facing, and hence the need of getting more connected, and demonstrating some of the vision from Microsoft and our HSO IP around the whole industry solution. What is a connected firm, and how do we leverage the innovation Microsoft Cloud has provided us? Some of the things we use currently, Word and Excel and Outlook, and how do we use all of that information to be able to have a 360-degree view of things we're doing. And obviously, we'll have about 10-15 minutes to the Q&A. So if you would mind either popping those questions as they come along in the chat, or wait for the Q&A session. So with that, first polling question, we would like audiences and participants to look at is, what's the firm's outlook on the business for the rest of the year 2022? How are we seeing some significant growth? Is the business about the same, or business is lower than we hoped? So if you don't mind, please click on the link in your chat box, which has popped up, for you to allow 25-30 seconds for you to answer that. Okay. Andy, do you want to take on while I'll publish the results as we get it?
Sure. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and actually turn off my camera here just to preserve some bandwidth while I share my desktop, make sure it's performing at maximum levels here. So I am ready to go as soon as we take a quick look at those results, Manish.
Well, so we already have the results, early results. I'll say 86% of the audience are seeing significant growth, which is fantastic, and that's what we would expect in line with the global trends.
Excellent. That is very good news. Very good. Well, why don't we go ahead and jump in then? So as Manish mentioned, just a couple quick slides on your host today, just to give a little bit of context around our background and what it is that we do. For those of you that aren't familiar, Microsoft's go-to-market model is through a channel of industry-focused partners, of which HSO is one of the largest in the world. Our AEC 360 solution, which is built on Microsoft Dynamics 365, is the leading Microsoft-based software platform for the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. And as you can see here, what we basically do is help our clients evaluate, implement, and support a full suite of customer relationship management, project management, and accounting, what we call ERP, from an operations and finance perspective, human resource management, business intelligence solutions, again, specifically for the architecture, engineering, construction industry. We've done this in many countries around the world and are one of Microsoft's most decorated and award-winning partners within the Microsoft ecosystem. So that's a little bit about who we are as an organization. What we've done with AEC 360 really is taken this world-class Dynamics 365 cloud suite, and we pre-configured it and we extended it to meet the unique needs of AEC firms. So it really gives you the best of both worlds, as we like to say, in terms of getting best-in-class cloud technology platform and a solution that was purpose-built for the AEC industry. And many other software vendors, you kind of have to make that choice. We give you the best of both worlds here. As you can see here, this platform really addresses the whole value chain of an AEC firm. We like to describe it in the context of helping our clients find and win more work, deliver their work, account for their work, and manage their talent, all in an integrated platform here. And as you can see across the bottom, this is built on the Microsoft cloud. So it ties into all things Microsoft, and this is really what enables us to, again, deliver this connected AEC firm concept that you'll learn more about today. You can see here a sense of some of our clients. We work with well over 100 AEC firms around the world across architecture, engineering, and construction disciplines. Many of these organizations multinational in terms of their footprint. Many of these organizations run our entire suite that you just saw. Some of them just use specific components of it. But again, from a core business model perspective, again, probably share many common traits to your firms as we look at, again, those key processes around finding and winning work and delivering work and accounting for your work and managing your talent here. So that's a quick background in terms of who we are and what we do. And so to set the table today in terms of the need to be connected, we're going to give a little bit of background just in terms of what's happening in the industry here. And even before COVID, there were a lot of changes taking place in the AEC industry. A lot of consolidation, ongoing mergers and acquisitions have really helped the big multinational firms get even bigger, given them the unique ability to vertically integrate and really have more control over the construction value chain. And that's made it tougher on some of the smaller firms to really compete against these larger firms as they continue to get bigger and bigger. From a procurement and contracting perspective, owners continue to try to find ways to transfer risk with new contracting methods. And we're seeing contractors and subcontractors getting involved in the process earlier, which is forcing a lot of firms to find new ways to collaborate throughout the business development and design build process. The nature of the workforce has been changing, not just with the war for talent in recent years. As we said, 86% of you saw that business is growing significantly. That's placing a lot of pressure on the talent pool within the AEC space. And we're also seeing this generational shift, in a lot of firms where the younger generation is driving change in a lot of firms' culture and how they use technology. And so that's obviously kind of an undercurrent here as well. To that point, this transition to the digital age, adopting new technologies around cloud computing and mobile apps and artificial intelligence, it's all expanding very rapidly in the AEC market, and a lot of firms are struggling to try to figure out how to adapt to that new technology and become more digital. And on the other hand, this technology is also breeding a lot of innovation. A lot of firms creating internal innovation teams to try to understand, how do we apply these emerging technologies, both from a service delivery perspective, as well as how we can use them internally to be more efficient as well. So again, we were seeing some significant changes afoot in the industry for quite some time now. And those developments have in many ways intensified some of the traditional challenges firms have had, like being able to attract and develop new business. All firms live and die by projects, which means there's just this constant pressure to be bringing in new work. Obviously very important. Continual raising of the bar in terms of client expectations, which can be a challenge to live up to from a project delivery standpoint. We're also seeing this erosion of margins that Manish mentioned earlier, which is making it really important for firms to operate at the top of their game, driving more productivity and efficiencies to be able to do more with less, really to deliver the same results. So that's obviously important as well. You layer in some heavy competition, and maintaining quality and efficiency levels is really important across the board in areas like safety and financial practices within the firm, but also producing high quality work on time, within budget, and trying to create these long-term repeat clients. Finding and keeping good people has been a challenge, as we've seen really strong demand, like we talked about, and also low availability of resources with some specialized skill sets that's causing some challenges as well. As we know, the pace of business continues to really increase. It makes it more important than really ever it has been for firm leadership to have real-time visibility across their business. A lot of firms still have disparate legacy systems with what we call islands of data. They haven't invested heavily in new analytical tools, and as a result are flying blind in many ways. And again, as interconnected as the world is today, there's just more vulnerability than ever before to global economic cycles and events like we all experienced over the last couple of years with COVID. So those are obviously some things that many firms have top of mind in terms of trying to be successful. And so as we move forward now more than ever, firms need a new set of capabilities. They need to be agile, be able to respond to increasing competition and some of these global economic challenges, be efficient to account for these shrinking margins that we talked about, be insightful, be able to make real-time business decisions, both to be able to adjust if things start to go wrong, but also take advantage of new business opportunities as they present themselves. And finally, they need to be connected, right, in terms of their processes, their relationships, their insights, their tools, and that's really what we're going to talk a lot about today here. So with that background, we introduced this notion for the first time here of the Connected AEC Firm, which is a model that we here at AEC 360 and HSO worked with Microsoft to develop. Where we're really driving this deep connectivity across all areas of your business and your technology footprint. From our perspective, this Connected AEC Firm has integrated key business process areas like marketing and business development, project management, accounting, human resources, and really streamlined and automated processes and helped to drive the flow of data across the business. They've enabled connectivity between their business software and their productivity tools like Outlook and Office and Teams to really be able to drive higher levels of productivity and collaboration. They've gained real-time insights across the business by unifying their data on a connected, integrated business platform and been able to really embed those insights into the context of their business processes that they're managing. And they've connected their relationships. We all know relationships are one of the biggest keys to finding and winning new work. We'll talk more about that today, but by connecting their relationships, they've better understood who at the firm knows who at a client or a teaming partner, who's worked with who in the past, and been able to leverage those relationships to drive better business development practices. So we're going to dig into each of these areas today here very shortly, but that's really the essence of this Connected AEC firm and how it addresses some of the challenges that we laid out just a moment ago. So before we jump in, for those of you that aren't sure whether you're a connected firm or not, wanted to lay out for you just some signs of disconnected firms. And these are some common threads that we see organizations kind of struggling through when they engage with Microsoft and the team here at AEC 360. In many cases, they have disparate business systems that aren't well integrated. They have a lot of manual intervention, redundant data entry, and it really causes their data to become siloed. They use outdated technology, which is really represented by these legacy on-premise software systems that are hard to access, don't allow mobile connectivity very easily, and as a result of that, they have a hard time getting employees to use their systems. They suffer from low levels of user adoption, which starts to break down business process standardization. You start seeing different groups within the firm doing things differently and different tools. And the data quality starts to fragment, which then makes it hard to get this data out in a way that you can use to make important business decisions. So these are some of the signs that we see of firms that are not in that position to be a connected firm, and some of the challenges that we help them work through. So we're going to jump into, again, all of these areas of the Connected AEC firm here next, but that does bring us to our second polling question. Now that you've seen some of these aspects of a connected AEC firm, what would you say the biggest challenge for your firm is in terms of being connected? Is it the fact that you have disconnected systems that are causing inefficiencies, you lack real-time visibility into how the firm is performing, or maybe that outdated technologies preventing people from being able to adopt the system and use them the way they're supposed to? So again, what would you say your firm's biggest challenge is today? We'll give everybody a 30 seconds or so to go ahead and answer that for us.
So getting a few responses, and early in the lead is disconnected systems are causing inefficiencies. Seems to be the response.
All right, that is
let's give
not
a couple of
uncommon.
seconds, and yeah, I think outdated technology hinders is the close second, neck to neck in the responses so far. So I think we get the summary. Disconnected systems obviously are causing a lot of efficiency and inefficiencies, and outdated technology. I think they are the two stand out, which I think, Andy, from our own global experience, are common themes.
Yes, very much so. I would say that addressing those two areas of concern are some of the items that are top of mind for most of the firms that we're working with here. So thank you everybody for participating in the poll. We've got one more coming up here after we get through the meat of today's presentation. So let's go ahead and dive into, again, how Microsoft and AEC 360 are addressing these challenges and enabling this connected AEC firm. Ivy, I think you're going to give us a quick overview here of the Microsoft Cloud Platform and how this helps to enable some of the capabilities that we laid out there.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. So I'll sort of just give a bit of a bird's eye view on the Microsoft Cloud and where Dynamics sits in all of this, and Andy's going to provide a little bit more context in the AEC land. But some of you may have already seen this slide before. It's not anything new, but obviously Dynamics sits a part of the overall Microsoft cloud strategy. It's one of the core clouds, the other ones being Modern Workplace, where you're probably quite familiar with some of our productivity tools like Teams, Outlook, Power BI, and LinkedIn. And then you've also got our Azure cloud cloud, which is a very highly secure and compliant cloud that some of you guys are already leveraging already. And then one other element that we haven't really talked about is sort of the Power Platform, which is sort of the underlying business applications platform, which Dynamics is a part of. But the other part that's maybe not so familiar to some of you guys is the concept of low-code development. So we've got tools like Power Apps, Power Automate, as well as bots. That's part of this low-code platform where we're enabling businesses to actually go and create very specific applications that sit around your existing legacy applications, or even as an extension of Dynamics for very specific use cases. And what we've seen is applications being created really quickly, but then also enabling some of your power users and your business analysts to really fully understand the business and create these specific applications to meet requirements. Dynamics being sort of the core topic today, we have basically line of business applications created for very specific use cases right across from marketing, how do we actually engage some of your customers with more relevant content, as we know that, mass emailing and bulk marketing is not the way to go anymore. And then how do we actually funnel those interests back into your business development teams, helping them actually to find the right people to connect with and winning those jobs and projects, and then actually creating the jobs and assigning resources, and then also the project accounting and the billing and ERP side of things. So from here we can see that there's a very end-to-end business scenario that Microsoft and Dynamics are addressing. And if disconnected systems is one of the core challenges you have today, we're recognizing that you're probably already leveraging some applications like Office 365 and Teams. So the power of Dynamics and the platform is actually natively integrating with some of those applications to actually create more efficiencies in the way that you guys are already working. Over to you, Andy.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ivy. And I think, as we look at some of these core blocks around the outside, again, those are going to directly map into some of these capabilities that we're going to lay out here in terms of the Connected AEC Firm. So let's go ahead and drill down onto each of those 4 areas and take a look at some specific examples of how the Microsoft Cloud is going to help drive those connected processes and relationships and productivity and insights here. So we'll go ahead and start with this notion of connected processes here. And, as we're all aware, one unique aspect of the AEC industry is the extent to which these different areas of our business are tied together, and the extent that data needs to flow seamlessly across these different areas to support the work that your different teams need to do. So, the folks in marketing and business development need information about your projects and your people to respond to RFPs and put proposals out. We need to be able to automate the creation of projects and clients and contract details, in the project management and accounting areas based on the work that was done in the business development process. The accounting team needs access to information from project managers around progress and milestones that need to be billed and how revenue needs to be recognized and so on. So without really covering every element of this slide, I think you kind of get the picture again, the extent to which this data really needs to be connected here. And that's really what was behind us creating this integrated platform here that helps you manage this whole value chain in a more integrated fashion. So just to maybe highlight a few examples so you can kind of see how this all comes together here. A logical place to showcase some of this integration really is within our AEC 360 CRM module, which is a complete platform for marketing, business development, experience management, relationship intelligence. And what I've done is pulled up here a record of an opportunity or a pursuit for a new project that we're working on. And again, wanted to just showcase some of this connectivity into other areas of the business. One of the items that you'll see here at the top, and one of the challenges a lot of firms are faced with, is better integrating their project planning and estimating process with their business development process so that we can put the right fee estimates together, have that soft backlog easily flow into our backlog and forecast reporting, And we hang that all together very nicely right from an opportunity here. If I need to spin up a proposal project to capture business development costs or expenses, I can do that. I can create a new planning project right from an opportunity and start to build out my work plan and all of the roles and effort that's required and build up my fee estimate, again, right in the business development process. As I'm doing that, it's summarizing here for me on the opportunity what that services estimate is comprised of. This is just an example of a rolled up level where I'm looking at, how much labor, fees, expenses, subcontractors, and so on are flowing in from that planning projects that I created. And I'm also looking out from my CRM module here into information from my project management and accounting modules here in what we call our matching projects view. What this is doing is looking at key attributes about this proposal, this pursuit, maybe what market sector it's in, what client type it might be, what services we're providing. You can rank those in terms of their priority levels, and it's automatically gone out and found matching projects and showed us, what did we propose in terms of effort on those projects, as well as cost? What were the actuals that came through? What have we billed to date? Did we make any money on those projects? So we're getting a nice litmus test here while we're pursuing this new opportunity in terms of how other projects may have performed. Again, that information flowing seamlessly in from the project management and accounting areas within our business. We also have the ability, like I mentioned, right from an opportunity here to start to automate the creation of the project and the different contract lines. These are different lines for maybe different phases of the project, which may have different contract values associated with it. Again, all fed from this work that's being done up front within the business development cycle. So again, having intelligence into other projects that you've done, how they performed, and being able to automate downstream process is a key part of that whole connected process experience here. Another area where we see this flow through, again, in terms of examples, would be in our experience library, both in terms of our projects and our people and their experience and qualifications. This is an example of a marketing view of a project that we completed. In this case, it was a student housing project for a university. I see all the attributes about this, which I can search and put together project cut sheets and other types of documents. What I wanted to highlight here was really a couple things. This values and dates tab, again, information flowing in from our project management module in terms of key dates related to the project, as well as the financial disposition of the project. Again, what did we bill? What was our profitability, and so on. Again, flowing through here into the marketing view of the project. The other thing we see flowing in that's very useful is this experience widget in the top right. These are all the people that put time on this project. So we're not just understanding what did we do for whom, but who worked on it and in what role and when. So we can see here all of these individuals put time on this project in their timesheet, and it flowed automatically through here into this project experience record in the marketing area, so that the marketing team doesn't have to try to manually keep up with who's done what. Again, from an employee perspective now, if we look at this example of Ron, who's one of our senior project managers, we see this notion of how this data is going to flow in, again, not just from the timesheets. Here I can see all the projects that Ron worked on based on time he put in his timesheets, but also coming in from the HR area. It's going to automatically pull in from HR self-service, Ron's education, his professional registrations or certifications, any specific qualifications or skills Ron might have, again, flowing through from the HR area directly into the marketing area. So we don't have to try to, again, keep information about our people updated really in three places: marketing, project management for resource scheduling, and HR, right? We do it once and it flows seamlessly across the business. So all of this experience data, again, like I said, will help us automate the dynamic creation of resumes and cut sheets and other proposal documents as well. So those are just a few kind of visual examples, if you will, in terms of again, this notion of connected processes and how data flows seamlessly across this AEC 360 platform. When we think of connected productivity, obviously because Dynamics 365 is part of the Microsoft Cloud, as Ivy laid out, and the Office tools and the other Microsoft tools, all natively live together within this cloud world, we have the ability in a pretty unique way to drive really deep levels of productivity and collaboration into your business processes here. There's a lot of scenarios, as you can see there in the blue box, across integration with Outlook and Teams and all things Microsoft, really. But I wanted to highlight just a few examples for today's purposes, just to give you a sense of, again, how this all comes together. So if we were to pop back out and take a look at one example here, which is inside of Outlook. So I'm in an Outlook email here, and one of the things that we'll see when we use the Microsoft Office tools with Dynamics 365 is a button here that shows up in the upper right-hand corner. You have the ability within AEC 360 and Dynamics 365 to run the entire CRM application right inside of Outlook. What that does is removes the need for seller doers to go log in somewhere and basically enter data into CRM. We're going to talk more in a minute about how we capture a lot of this detail automatically here. But what this allows them to do, as I can see, this email from Andy has been Andrew has been automatically contributed to CRM, as I see on the right-hand side. I have full access to all of my dashboards, my pursuits, all of the information about this client and the people that work there. So full access to the entire CRM application right inside of Outlook. Again, just helps drive better user adoption because people are already in Outlook every day. We're going to come back to this in a moment and talk about some of the other deep integration with Outlook and Exchange that's going to drive some better relationship intelligence as well. We think about tools like Excel, certainly easy for us to take any screen in any Dynamics 365 module, open it up in Excel for ad hoc analytics, but we can also use Excel for speeding up certain things that we might do inside the application as well. This is one example of a general ledger journal entry. So an example from your accounting department where in some cases, it's just faster to bang in a journal entry in Excel here and load it into Dynamics 365. Again, just like the Outlook example on the right side, I see my Dynamics 365 pane inside of Outlook. And as I'm clicking on fields here inside of Excel, it's real-time connected bidirectionally into Dynamics 365. So my list of GL accounts here are coming directly from Dynamics 365. I can enter these journal entries. I can publish it here just as if I had entered it in the user interface as well, and it follows the same business logic. So if I try to do something here that isn't an allowable, let's say, combination of the GL account and your dimension or org unit, it knows right inside of Excel that that's not a valid combination, and it's going to holler at me here and try to make me correct it right there. So you're getting the same control, security, and business logic inside of Excel, but it just might be faster to do here. We'll see another example quite a bit around updating bill rate schedules. Sometimes it's faster to just open in Excel, put in next year's updates, save it back in, I'm done. So again, just trying to drive better productivity. When we think about Microsoft Project, obviously a tool a lot of AEC firms use in terms of planning projects, that's embedded right inside Dynamics 365. I'm in our project management module now called Dynamics 365 Project Operations. And as you can see, embedded right inside of it is Microsoft Project, the new version called Project for the Web. So here, if I'm familiar with Microsoft Project, I see many of the similar columns that we have in our Microsoft Project client, but this is the online web-based version embedded in D365 as the planning and scheduling engine. So if I were to come over here to my timeline view, I'm getting kind of the new age view of a Microsoft Project Gantt chart, again, but embedded inside of Dynamics 365 for all the planning and scheduling activities. So again, for firms that use Microsoft Project, great way to use that in a much more extensive way, connected in with all the rest of your business data as well. And then the last example I wanted to show for today's purposes was as it relates to Microsoft Teams. So any business process in Dynamics 365 can be embedded in Microsoft Teams. You can see here I'm in Teams and I'm looking at my time entry homepage where I can come in without even leaving Teams and I can enter my timesheet here. I have full capabilities as if I was on my mobile device or the regular client. But because it's something, you know, I do quite often, I'm also in Teams quite often, why not just merge those two worlds together? So We see this in a lot of other areas around project collaboration and so on as well, where Teams is enabled from an integration standpoint. We can also see, for example, throughout the application, Teams IMs are enabled as well. So in this example, again, I'm on my timesheet, and a lot of firms struggle with people putting time on the right tasks. Right here inside of my timesheet, if I don't know which task to put these hours against, I can just chat with a project manager. It knows who the PM of this project or phase is. It opens up a chat, and I can say, hey, where do you want me to put my hours? Make sure I get them in right from the get-go. So again, driving a lot of again, business processes right into Teams as a user experience, which is again, it just helps remove barriers to user adoption. One of the other cool things that we see inside of Teams as well that Ivy mentioned is a tool called Power Automate Virtual Agents. We've shortened that up to call it a bot. A bot is a tool we can deploy for just about any business process to be able to query information and automate downstream activities. In this example, we have a bot that we've deployed in our environment here for looking at customer AR and collections information. So I can simply come into my bot and just type who's late. It's going to go into Dynamics 365 right from Teams here and say, well, how late do you want in terms of their outstanding AR? I'm going to say, you know what, show me everybody that has open AR in that 31 to 90 day window. It's gone into Dynamics 365 and come back and said, you have 2 customers that match those criteria. What do you want me to do next? And this is where we automate that next downstream process. Maybe we want to send them an AR statement. Maybe we want to send them copies of all their open invoices, or maybe I want to just drill right through Teams into that customer's profile in Dynamics 365 and take a deeper look at it. So we see these for things like missing timesheets, right? Who's late on their timesheets, brings back a list. What do you want me to do next? So really good opportunities to, again, use these bots to just change how people are interacting with your data, as well as, again, automating downstream processes. So those are just a few examples with Outlook and Excel and Project and Teams, but again, really helping drive better connected productivity by merging those 2 worlds of your productivity and collaboration tools with your business applications. So that was the second area we wanted to explore today. The third was around connected relationships. So as we talked about earlier, relationships are one of the most important assets a firm has in terms of business development. So when we think about connected relationships, we're really talking about having a 360-degree view into our relationships with clients and prospects and teaming partners, and really being able to leverage those relationships to find and win more work. Having insights into who knows who at your firm's connected to somebody at a client, who's communicating or meeting with them, who's worked with who in the past. Those can all be very valuable pieces of information when we're pursuing new business, when it comes to things like putting the best pursuit team together, maybe facilitating a cross-practice selling introduction. And also, as we see here, collision avoidance. We see that in a lot of firms that are multi-office, maybe multi-practice or discipline, where they're stepping on each other because they don't know that people in another office or from another practice within the firm are calling on the same client, and they don't know until that client tells them they just met with their colleagues yesterday. So those are some of the benefits of having this visibility of your relationships and understanding who knows who and how well they know them. And we wanted to take a look at a few aspects of this that really, again, highlight this ability to leverage your relationships to find and win more work. So when I was in this Outlook email earlier, I mentioned that we were going to come back and take a look at this email signature in the lower left-hand corner. What we've found is this is the place that most people keep their contact information up to date, and it's coming through our Exchange servers and our Outlook emails. So let's try to use that to again, automate the contribution of contact data, communications data, who's working with who's meeting with who, and so on. We all know that forcing seller doers or architects, engineers, and so on to go into a CRM system enter contacts, enter activities that I met with somebody or had a phone call or sent an email. It's just a losing proposition. They're too busy to do it. So we want to remove that burden of user data entry there from those seller doers, and we can automate that through this signature scraping mechanism, which is going to look at these email signatures coming across Exchange and Outlook. And if this person is not in CRM, it'll alert the user and say, hey, it looks like you've been emailing with Andrew more than 5 times. We're not finding him in CRM. Do you want me to add him? All you have to do is say yes. And then it can go out and look and figure out who else within the firm is communicating with Andrew and ask them if they want to create a relationship connection. So now you've created this relationship map of who knows who, and we can start to use the frequency of communications, the type of communications and engagement to score who knows who the best, again, so that we can make cross-practice selling introductions, put the right pursuit team together, and so on. So this is an important part of the integration with Outlook and Exchange in terms of automating that. Now, what that looks like when we go into our CRM system here, if we were to come to a record for a company, this happens to be a client of ours, Apache Corporation. Down the right-hand side, when we think of our 360-degree view here, we have a list of all the contacts or people that we know at this particular client. And based on that email signature scraping and the scoring mechanisms here, we've been able to create this view of who's connected to who and how well. So, for example, I can see the 6 people at Apache that our firm knows about, and after each of those is a number. So Mark Maddox here has a 3 after him. That means 3 people within our firm have a relationship with Mark. Gary, Austin, and Ron all do, and I can see that based on, again, the fact that they've been communicating or worked with Mark in the past. After each of these people, we also see a score. So for Gary here, I can see his score is 65, and I can see how we added that score up. Again, you can create your own scoring algorithms, points for emails in and out, calendar appointments in and out, other business development activities that are taking place, phone calls, projects you've worked with them in the past. And based on that scoring mechanism, it's basically showing me here that Gary knows Mark the best. So if I'm in a pursuit, or maybe I want an introduction to Mark, I can tell Gary might be the right person to go to there based on the fact that he has that highest relationship score there. So that gives you a really good view for who within the 4 walls of your firm may know somebody at a client or a teaming partner, may be communicating with them or has worked with them in the past, again, for those purposes. When we think outside the 4 walls of the firm, we can use a similar concept with LinkedIn Sales Navigator to understand who within my professional network might be connected to somebody. Again, LinkedIn is part of the Microsoft portfolio now as well. So as we look at a contact here, Mark Becker, I can see all the regular information about Mark. I can also see, again, who within our firm is connected to Mark and how well they know Mark based on all of the experience and communications they've had with them. But as I go to my Sales Navigator tab here, I'm actually seeing LinkedIn Sales Navigator embedded right inside of Dynamics 365 here. So I can see who within my professional network, I have 7 people that are shared connections to Mark. And if I wanted to get introduced to them, I could simply ask them here to make an introduction to Mark, as well as send in-mails and interact in other ways using LinkedIn Sales Navigator without leaving Dynamics 365. So we're combining, again, people within my professional network outside of the 4 walls of the firm that might know somebody with, again, this view of people within the firm that know them based on all of this activity that we talked about within the Outlook and Exchange world. So those are some of the ways that we're helping automate the contribution and connections of all this data. Again, trying to understand who knows who and how well they know them, and again, leverage those relationships to drive better business development success. So that's really this introduction to the concept of connected relationships. Last but certainly not least here in terms of the different connected processes are connected insights. And by this, again, we really mean having more of that real-time visibility into what's happening across the firm, And as we talked about, one of the ways we're going to help solve that right out of the gates is the fact that we're going to eliminate these islands of data and consolidate business data into a single common platform that we showed some examples of a minute ago. When you have all of your business data unified and in one place, it just makes it naturally that much easier to get that information into the stakeholders' hands in real time in a way that makes sense to them. So that's helped solves one of the big fundamental problems. But as we think more specifically about, how our firm's performing and being able to really have that type of insight, these are, metrics that are near and dear to the heart of most AEC firms, financial metrics like revenue and gross profit and WIP and AR days sales outstanding, things within projects, right? Progress, estimate to complete, earned value, project profitability, budgets, actuals, variances, things within our pipeline and backlog from a business development perspective, and then of course key metrics of our people. So not just things like headcount and attrition, but also looking at things like utilization and realization. Within AEC 360, we've pre-built a data warehouse that has over 100 of these measures ready to go out of the box specifically for AEC firms, and then we allow you to display these reports and slice and dice your data in lots of different ways. Could be by office, by market, by discipline, by service line, practice area, by client, by project, and so on. There's lots of different ways of doing that. So that's a big part of, again, connecting these insights. And wanted to share a few examples with you here today, just to kind of whet your appetite for the types of things we're doing. No surprise here, we do use Microsoft Power BI as the primary tool to do this. And so when we look at Power BI here and we think about this data, this is all coming out of that AEC 360 BI data model that I mentioned earlier. So for those of you that are not familiar with Power BI, lots of different ways you can display your data in terms of tiles versus maps and charts and graphs, lots of possibilities there. This is looking at an example of a dashboard for a practice manager, maybe somebody that leads one of your offices or disciplines or market sector teams. And we're looking at their view of the world. Maybe it's all up firm-wide view as well. How many projects are we working on? What's our revenue year to date? What's our backlog look like? What do we have in WIP as we scroll across the top here? What do we have in terms of open AR, days sales outstanding, and so on? How are our projects performing? The bigger the colored box, the closer it is to the budget. And we can jump in and take a look, as we'll see in a minute here. Looking at things like utilization and forecasted utilization. Again, lots of different ways of looking at this data. And we'll talk about how we can embed this right into teams for better collaboration purposes in a minute here as well. These are all live drillable reports and dashboards. So for example, if I wanted to dig into these projects and see what's going on, I simply drill through this dashboard into a view of my project details. And now I can start to understand what's happening. I can take my projects here that are part of my project portfolio. I can start to drill down into the phases and tasks and look at things like, what was the contract value and what did we have budgeted in terms of effort? What do we have in WIP right now? What's being invoiced currently on pre-bills or draft invoices? What have we billed to date? Where are we in terms of revenue and percent complete and so on? So I can get into all kinds of details about my projects this way as well. We have a full content pack around looking at projects. This is an example of one of those where I see information about a specific project. I'm looking at P&L details, revenue, costs, broken down, labor, expenses, subs. Where are we again in terms of contract value? What's in WIP and AR? What percent complete are we? How are labor hours trending on the project? Are they going up or down? Same with expenses and sub-consultants here. Drilling down into, again, more details about the fee schedule, how it's being billed, where are we in terms of what's in WIP, what percent complete are we in terms of billing and RevRec. Lots of detail here in terms of labor costs broken down by phase, by person, by sub-consultant. So all of this data coming out of that project at a glance content pack. Just one more example here for today's purposes around utilization. Obviously a key driver of profitability within most firms. This utilization content pack, again, something we see people looking at all up firm-wide, maybe broken down again by office or practice area or other segments within the firm that somebody might be responsible for. I'm seeing things like utilization, realization, or billability. How are billable hours trending, and how's our utilization and forecasted utilization trending going forward? Again, breaking this down by role, by office, and other types of slicers as well, down to individual people and their utilization reporting. So these are the people that are on my team, fully configurable utilization buckets, ultimately arriving at a utilization and realization percentage here relative to their target. And we can keep on drilling down. If I want to see more specifics around Chris, I can see what Chris's specific utilization and realization are. What's his utilization trend and forecast, what's he working on, and so on. So again, that's an example of our utilization report that's part of the AEC 360 solution. Those are just a few examples. Like I mentioned, one of the other cool parts about using Microsoft Teams is the ability to embed these right inside of Teams as well. So if I come back into Teams and pull up my practice manager dashboard here, you'll see that my same dashboard is now deployed inside of Teams, and we'll go ahead and make that a little bit bigger here. And again, same information. Because I'm in Teams, I just want it more accessible there. But one of the cool things is because it's in Teams, we now enable some of the collaboration features. So one of the widgets I can see here in my dashboard is a view of our WIP, and I can see that it bumped up a little bit a few weeks ago. And because we're inside of Teams, we can collaborate where somebody that's connected to my practice put a threaded discussion in here and said, hey, why did WIP go up last week? Somebody else responded and said, don't worry, we just finished the pre-bill process. We should be good to go. So able to, again, enable some of these collaboration capabilities by doing this inside of Teams as well. So those are just a few examples of, again, some of the content that we deliver with AEC 360 in terms of some of those key metrics and reports. Lots more there, but we didn't have time to go super deep on that today. If you're interested in a deeper view of that, we'd certainly be glad to do that with you as a follow-up. So that's a bit around connected insights and how Dynamics 365 and Power BI and AEC 360 can help get you there. So that's really, again, a top-level view of this Connected AEC firm, again, where we're connecting business processes to drive the flow of information. We're connecting you to your productivity tools in new ways, connecting you to your relationships, better understanding of who knows who to use that to your advantage, and then again driving these connected insights and being able to embed those in key places like inside of Teams and even inside of the Dynamics 365 user experience. So again, that's really the essence of this Connected AEC firm of the future. So that brings us to our third polling question here, which is, now that we've laid that out for you all, what would you say the biggest opportunity is for your firm to get connected? Nicole, hopefully we have that question in the chat here for people to link out to. But again, the options we gave you here are better integrating your systems and processes, driving better productivity and collaboration, or gaining better intelligence across your business. So we'll give everybody just a few seconds here to go ahead and answer that third polling question, and then we'll get to our Q&A.
Thank you,
what's
Andy.
the biggest opportunity for your firm to get connected?
While people are thinking about those answers, better integrating your systems and processes is, again, in the early lead is so far. And give another couple of few seconds more. While people are responding or who have responded, I would appreciate if there are any questions for Andy or for Microsoft or us you've got popping up. Feel free to pop in your chat and or ask, whichever way you're comfortable with. Great, happy to answer. If there are things we can't answer, then I'm happy to take offline and come back to you. I'm mindful of time, schedule time. We've got 5 minutes, but happy to stay back if there are. So I think with the polling, overwhelmingly better integrating your systems and processes, Andy, is what we've got.
Excellent. Yes, and I guess when we looked at the biggest challenge and saw that disconnected systems was part of the problem, it's good to see the answer is probably better integrating those systems and processes. So again, not uncommon for a lot of the firms that we work with. So Manish, I think you wanted to talk a little bit about how we can help these folks if they're interested in exploring the solution more deeply.
Sure. Thanks, Andy. And one of the things we find quite overwhelming for customers and the firms is, where do we get started? This is all well and fine, Andy. That's brilliant. But, how do we get started? Where is a piece of string? So there are a few things we, along with Microsoft, can help. We could construct and have a conversation around a bit of a health check and review of where you are in your journey. Every customer, every firm will be different. So we can look at some of your, marketing, business development processes, or your projects or your financials, and see how out of the box Microsoft productivity tools and Dynamics AEC 360 solution can help. And what are the areas where you might need a bespoke or a custom-made approach. The second option is to do a bit more deep dive into what we call as an envisioning workshop, is to understand, it's a boardroom style 2-hour workshop with some of your key leaders to understand some of your challenges and the opportunities which the firm has for improvement, and then tailor that back into personalized demonstration from what we've understood, and play that back to you how Dynamics and Microsoft and AEC 360 can help address those challenges and present opportunities to be tackled. And again, there are a number of programs from Microsoft and initiative from Microsoft to get you started. Again, happy to help and have a chat separately of what it could look like for you and your firm. But we are more than happy to have a chat and help talk about how we can help, not just from a technology standpoint, but mainly bringing the global experience from Andy and his team and us locally to drive some of those out. So with that, I'll open the floor for questions. Anybody had that in mind, or Microsoft, me, Andy, feel free to pose any questions.
So it's looking pretty quiet in the chat at the moment, so I might kick everyone off and warm you up a little bit. I do want to know, Andy, do AEC firms need to do all this at once? What should they start with? Is there one particular, thing that you see all the time, which is, the starting point? What would you suggest?
So great question. I think, that definitely depends on where the low-hanging fruit is for each firm and what the biggest problems are that we're trying to address. There are lots of different approaches. We do see some firms really, taking on the whole suite and what we would call a big bang approach. We also see others that have done more of a sequenced or phased approach. Just naturally, some of the workloads like marketing and business development or HR typically are much faster to complete an implementation than the core, finance and project accounting and project management areas. So in some cases, we'll see where there's value to having those live first, that they would kind of start all three workloads at the same time, but then roll them in over time based on when they're ready to go. So lots of different approaches, but by no means do you have to do them all or have to do them all at the same time. It is a very modular solution, both from a licensing and deployment standpoint. So you start where it makes sense to start and where it adds the most value to the business.
Great. Well, we do have some questions coming in now. So I've got one here asking about, do you have any experience migrating firms from Deltek Vision?
We do have a lot of experience with that. Yes, that's something we're doing quite a bit of. We've got a number of firms that have migrated and are in the process of it. Part of what we built out was a Deltek Vision migration program where we've actually pre-mapped all of the standard data elements from Vision 7.6 into Dynamics 365 and AEC 360. And there's other benefits to the program as well, but obviously Deltek over the years has had a big a big part of the market share in the AEC industry, and with them announcing the sunsetting of Vision at some point here, we've been very busy talking to lots of Deltek clients that are looking at other options as they look at the next 10 or 15 years. So yes, quite a bit of experience there. Glad to talk more about that and some of the firms that we're doing it with, but we can do that as a follow-up maybe.
Andy, another question has come up, which is very from firms. What if we already have some part of the solution, whether it's the CRM, the front part, or the back end being the ERP finance? So, can we use AEC 360 if we have?
Sure. I mean, you can definitely layer AEC 360 into an existing Dynamics 365 environment, or if it's a completely new workload, like maybe you have the marketing business development or CRM platform and want to tag on the project management and financial management areas, for example, easy to add those on as well. So a couple different approaches there in terms of expanding workloads, but also layering in our industry-specific features into an existing Dynamics 365 environment as well.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody out there?
I do see Michael typing at the moment, so we might give him a second just to finish up the question he's popping through. While we do that, how about answering, some suggested best practices around change management? Because obviously this is, it's not necessarily a little project, and it will impact a few staff, and how people are about change. So any suggestions for helping that process along and making it smooth?
Yes, that's obviously a big challenge for most firms, especially if you're like a lot of firms where one of the biggest challenges you've had is getting, in most cases, it's project managers, seller doers into a tool and actually start using the system, getting that user adoption and buy-in. That's the area where we see change management, most extensive. For the 60–70% of the business that are just out working on projects and putting in time and expenses and updating their resumes, I mean, those are pretty easy things that don't require a lot of change management. But when we get into the core processes around project planning, project execution, project accounting, definitely some change management attention required, which spans, all of the different disciplines of change management in terms of change communications, putting the right team structure together to get the right level of champions and buy-in across the organization. Lots of focus on training, making sure people understand the new tools, the new processes, the new way of doing things. So we like to say that the technology piece of this is the easy piece. The change management piece is really what makes us successful. So happy to go deeper as a follow-up, but those are just some quick thoughts off the top of my head here.
Thank you, Andy. The question from Michael, same thing as Deltek. Have you created a similar program to migrate from BST? And if so, do you have any tailored demo to see how they will benefit BST ERP customers migrating out?
We are doing one tomorrow, as a matter of fact. Yes, we've got a similar program for BST 8 clients that, again, are being forced to look at BST 10, and many of them are taking a step back and looking at what else is out there. So similar thing we've done for both Deltek and BST. We've already got a handful of BST 8 clients migrated, so happy to go deeper on that and share a demonstration with you as a follow-up as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Andy. Any other questions? Happy to stay back and really appreciate your time, all of you, taking your valuable time out of your day. Hopefully you found this interesting and useful. As I said, my name is Manish. I'm based in Sydney. I will contact you with the recording of the presentation for you to consume and share with your colleagues. And happy to take any questions if you have, and or any of the action items I posted or have a tailored specific action, if your firm needs one, then happy to address that as well. But officially, I would like to take this time to thank Andy, particularly Nick IV from Microsoft. It was been a great session. Thank you all again, and we're here for another few minutes. If you want to continue asking questions or need some help, happy to. Otherwise, we'll formally close this webinar on Connected AEC 360. And have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.